Hello there, it's good to join you together with my lovely girlfriend, wife, best friend of 12 years. Today and for the next 3 days, we're going to be sharing with you on a few things that we've learned during this lockdown season. It's been quite a season and our marriage has gone through a few learning curves, and we are really excited for us to share a few thoughts with you on the things that we've learned throughout this lockdown. That's why we've titled our series Wedlock
in Lockdown.
Before Joanne comes in and shares her 2 cents, I would like to just give a bit of perspective on what our conversation is going to be. We really want to just share the things that for us have been the things that we are learning concerning marriage. We've been very intentional this season to learn a few things through the mistakes that we've made, and we are not in any way coming to you as experts in marriage. We're simply coming to share with you our own experiences and the things that we're learning, and perhaps maybe you could pick a thing or two. So that's the perspective I wanted to lay. So let me give it to my friend, my girl right here, Joan, to greet you.
Hi everyone, my name is John, like he said, and I'm excited to be with you today, being the first day, and we are on this journey trying to work out marriage in this lockdown and trying to find a way to not let your marriage be another coronavirus casualty, and help our marriages get better, and we're praying that it comes out perfect. So our first topic today will be communication, and I'll let my husband start us on that.
Thank you, my wife. So anyway, we like goofing around a lot, especially me. She's always serious. So today we're going to talk about one of the fundamentals. It's really a foundational component of marriage, and that is communication. Many marriages are struggling. Others have really ended because of really having a shaky foundation in the area of communication. And we felt that it's important for us to start with this as the very first thing that we'll be talking about, which will be a building block to the other things that we'll be talking about. Communication is vital, absolutely vital. And it's because of actually communication that we were prompted to make this video and the series of videos that will be coming up, because it's something that happened. I'll let Joan explain what happened and then we'll get right into it.
Okay, so at the beginning of the lockdown, like 2 days into the lockdown, we had this argument. He said something and I picked it up and interpreted it my way. And in this interpretation, it made us argue, it made us get mad at each other. And me being the melancholy I am, and him being the sanguine he is, it was such a challenge. And then 2 days later, we were wondering, we're like, so we are in this for 14 days. 14 days, and we are supposed to be together from morning to evening to morning, like 24 hours together. And we've spent 2 days not talking. So we had to sit down and just realize, you know what, we have to be in this together and deal with it. So let me let him explain more.
So it was one of those things that happen, you argue and you go day 1, you're not talking, you're ignoring each other. Day 2, you're giving each other silent treatment. And given my personality, Joan just mentioned it, I'm a sanguine. What that means is that I'm a talker. That's how I express myself, through talking. Her personality is that she can go for days just being with herself, doing her own thing, and she will be fine. So, so for me, by day 2, I was like, no, this is just not working. It's not working at all. So, I decided, I remember it was in the morning. She enters the bathroom, has a shower, and then I locked the door. I locked our bedroom door. I said, we are not coming out of this bedroom until we have sorted this issue out. I said, look, we are with each other here for 14 days. I'm not going anywhere. I really don't want to be in a house where we are estranged from each other. So really, we decided to be very intentional about the things that we're going to do within the lockdown to help build a healthy marriage. And one of the things that we decided to talk about was communication. And we realized that there are a couple of things that are a barrier to effective communication in marriages. Yep. Maybe, do you want to share some of the barriers that...
So one of the barriers that we realize is assumption. You assume someone is saying something, and for you, you interpret it and say, you know, he doesn't love me. Or, you know what, I think something is wrong with me. And you get it and run with it, yet they actually meant something different. So that assumption really gets to be a destroyer in our marriages and gets to have rifts created in our marriages. So before the lockdown, you'd find that some people used to have arguments in their marriages, and then next minute is they get in their car and drive off. Or if you don't have a car, you just take a walk and go away. So you're working the whole day, 7 to 7. You're comfortable. You come back home, it's time for dinner, have your dinner, enter bed, and that's it. But now here you are in lockdown. In lockdown, you have to face the other party. So you find that your spouse that you've been running away from, now you have to face them in this lockdown. There is no other way. The only way is face them. So it's not comfortable, it's disturbing, and then the only option you have right now is fight. But how are you going to fight? How are you going to fight in this lockdown? So you have each other for 14 days. Now it's become more than 14 days. We are in our 6th week. So you find that either way, there is no other option but to deal with the problem. So how are you dealing with the problem as a couple? How are you going to find the solution in this time? So I'll let my husband give more barriers.
Yeah, maybe if I can speak very quickly into fight or flight. Okay. It's just, it's a response mechanism to conflict. Usually you argue, and what you do is you say, you know what, let me go to work. And you do that, we do that every day. It's a cycle to ignore that problem and bury it under the carpet. And what the lockdown has done, as Joanna said, is that it has removed that barrier. You're not going anywhere. But then, honey, I have noticed that there are certain things that people have done to perpetuate this problem. Maybe you might want to speak into it, of creating artificial barriers. So, because they cannot go, they've decided to create that barrier and boundary within the house and within the home to still perpetuate the issue of ignoring each other and ignoring the issue that they have had. And yesterday, as we were preparing this, you talked about some of these barriers that people do. Maybe you might want to share that, because... So
we realize some of the barriers that people have come up with is you get your earphones, plug them into your ears, and block off your spouse, just so you don't have to hear the voice of the other person. And the other barrier is you get in, you find that your spouse is in the sitting room, you decide, I'm in the kitchen. Or your spouse is in the bedroom, you decide, I'll be in the sitting room, so that we don't meet anywhere. And if it's a smaller house, if your spouse is in the sitting room, you decide, I'll go take a nap on the balcony. I'll go sit under the tree, just so you get away from the other party. And is that a solution? Not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important for us to be intentional. I think for us, what we've done is to raise the bar of intentionality. We've realized, look, number one is we are all that we have. Second is that no one is going to come and solve these problems for us. Even when you have, let's say, people like who hold you accountable. For example, we have an accountability couple that works with us. They can only help you to a certain extent. So we realize that, you know what, this issue of ignoring one another of saying, you know, for me, I'll be in the bedroom working. You know, some of us are working from home. So you have your laptop in the bedroom, the ladies in the kitchen, or you have you're on your phone and all these things. It has created boundaries, and these are things that are causing the communication rift to be divided even more.
Yeah.
The other thing that is a barrier to communication is not listening effectively. Is as we communicate, we are different personalities. Like Joan and I are different. I can talk my way out of a problem, and I'm not a very good listener. And Joan knows that, she notices that I'm not listening to her, what she does is just switch off.
I'm done.
She will switch off, and she won't have that conversation. So I have learned, and I'm still learning, by the way, that I need to listen to her and not ignore her. Sometimes she's
listening with the eyes too. Yes.
And Joan can tell when I am there, but I'm not listening. She can tell when I am just a body, but I'm not fully present. So one of the things that for me I feel have been an issue in communication is a situation where somebody communicates and the other party is not listening. They only want to talk and express themselves, but they are not willing to listen to their spouse. And this is something that we've decided to do in this lockdown. We say, look, we shall decide to listen, and I will talk about that later today in this talk. The other barrier is blaming each other or placing the blame on the other person. Do you want to share about blame? Okay. So the thing is, we are always defensive. Okay. Your viewpoint of an issue, you will want to defend. And oftentimes defense comes with blaming the other person. No, you did this. If you had not done this, I would have done this. If you had done this, I would not have done this.
We'll give you an example from Genesis chapter 3, when Adam and Eve, after they ate the forbidden fruit, what happened? The blame game started. Adam blamed Eve, and Eve didn't want to take up the blame. They passed on the blame to the serpent. So basically, the blame game started from there. So blaming really kills communication a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things that we decided we're going to look out for because these are barriers to communication. The other barrier in communication is speaking in superlatives. What does that mean? When you use the phrases, you never do this.
Always.
Do this. Or you're never doing this. You're always doing this. You never do this. Speaking in superlatives and ignoring the fact that there's an issue that you're dealing with currently, and that issue needs to be a standalone issue, and it shouldn't be tethered to other things. Even when it is something that, for example, is a struggle for your spouse, when you keep using superlatives and saying, you know, you never do this, you always do that, that is discouraging. Because what that communicates is, can I ever improve? If it's a weakness, if it's a struggle. Is there anything you want to share on that? Yeah. So it's an important thing to know that superlatives, let's take those out of our communication. We are all work in progress. We are struggling and trying to become better spouses, but using that thing, and sorry to say, but the women use it a lot, you know. You never do this, you can see her grinning with guilt. Anyway, go to the next one.
So the other barrier in communication is bringing up the past. You know, you get to have an argument, you deal with the issue, and it is done. But then when you have another argument, because you know what, you're human, you get to have arguments always. It might not be as frequent, but it does happen. You're not perfect. And then you bring up what happened in the past. You know, you remember you did this and this and this, and you're like, but we dealt with that. I thought we were clear with that. I thought everything was done. And then it comes and brings up another issue. It means whatever you discussed in solving the past issue, nothing worked. So that gets to be a serious problem. So that's a serious barrier, because you get to strain yourselves. It means you're not reaching where you're supposed to reach. You're still having issues that are really hindering the solutions that you come up with. Yes. Absolutely.
And something about going back to the past is that it kind of builds a wall for healthy communication. Because, for example, let's say I do something wrong and I come share it with Joan, and maybe 6 months later, a year later, she brings that very thing that we dealt with.
Imagine.
She brings it back. What happens in that process is that it literally it disempowers me from ever having to be vulnerable with her with something in the future, because I'll be like, you know what, my spouse keeps a record of wrong, and because she keeps a record of wrong, I cannot share vulnerably. I cannot share my struggles. I cannot share things that are important with her, because she's going to use it against me. So that is really something that we really need to look out for, because it's such a barrier to communication, and it's also a sign of mistrust. And we'll talk about that in detail tomorrow, because tomorrow we'll be talking about trust. The other thing is the tone of our voice, how we use our voice. Now, communication is interesting, is that communication is 7% voice, words, okay? It is 38% the tone that you use, the tone of your voice, because it communicates a lot.
Yep.
And then 55% of communication is non-verbal communication. And one of the things we ignore, number one, is that the cues that your spouse gives non-verbally, you should be able to know over time that, you know what, this is what my wife is talking about. This is what she intends to communicate to me. The way we talk, the way we raise our voice. Now, I'm a high-pitched person. Usually in arguments, I raise my voice. I'm not proud of it. I'm ashamed of it. And Joan, she just zoop, shuts down. Every time I raise my voice, she just shuts down. And it is something that I am learning, that even if I'm high-pitched, even if I know how to argue my way out of things, the way I speak to my spouse can either help solve the problem, or it can just make things worse and make the communication issue even harder going forward.
Although he's high-pitched and I shut down, sometimes the shutting down can be also a bad communication way, because he may start speaking, and because I would not love to hear the loud voices, I shut down and I'm done with the conversation. So we'll not solve the issue at all. But if we would learn to find a way to communicate and speak right to one another, that is very, very helpful. So that the barriers are like destroyed totally, and then we get to find a ground where we can both communicate easily. That will be really helpful. So now we'll move into building the effective communication. Effective communication, the most important thing is have open communication. If you keep quiet, that will be a problem, because there'll be nothing to solve, for sure.
Absolutely.
There'll be nothing to solve, and you'll think that you're living, basically you'll be living like, what can I say? Brother, sister. Brothers might be better than sister because they get to communicate.
Yeah.
But then you'll be living like
strangers
in the house. So we need to find a ground where we both can communicate and help ourselves build this marriage to last longer, till death do us part. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll let him go into it.
Yeah, and you know what is interesting, honey, is when you enter this covenant, it's a covenant that you choose to enter into. And most of the people, by the time they say I do, there's an element of trust, love, sense of companionship you've seen in the other person, and you want to spend the rest of your life with this person. Of course, life happens, things change. We start going through different seasons in our marriage, and marriages become estranged. But really, to be honest with you, in our own experience, the last 12 years we've been married, we've realized that when you're not intentional about working out and resolving issues, they're left unresolved. And it's like, exactly, it's like sweeping something under the carpet or bottling something. Eventually that thing builds up. And unfortunately, we've seen people walk out of their marriage because of their inability to effectively communicate. And we come to you, really, part of the reason why we actually share these videos with you is we got to understand that, number one, during the lockdown, more marriages have gone through more marital abuse. There's domestic violence that has gone up. Now, these are things that had not been dealt with in the past.
Yes.
Now, they've been confined. There's a sense of confinement. And domestic violence, by the way, it's a global issue all around the world, has gone up. So, openly communicating, saying, look, I am coming to you to share with you what the problem I have with you. Share the problem that you have with me. And maybe God will help me deal with the issues that I have to deal with me. There has to be an openness. We can't have secrecy. We can't have silent treatment. We cannot have a sense of ignoring one another. And I know it's not easy because different couples deal with their issues differently, but it's something we have to be intentional about. The other thing that is important in building effective communication is confidentiality. Confidentiality. When I share my weakness with my wife, my struggle with my wife, when I share the things that bother me, I really want to hope against hope that what I've shared with her is safe and it's not going to be shared out there, except the things that both of us agree to share. So for example, because we walk a journey of accountability, there are things that we share excuse me, with our accountability partners that we've agreed on. But there are things that we say, this is confidential, this is personal, this is from my heart to your heart. So that sense of being able to hold in confidence what your spouse shares is a very important key. And we'll talk about confidentiality a little bit more tomorrow when we're talking about trust.
Maybe another factor to use to build effective communication is listening. Listening in a way that don't be too quick to respond to what the other person. First, give an ear with all your body and listen to this person speaking. Try to listen to what your spouse is saying and repeat back what you've heard. That will help you understand what exactly they're communicating and not misunderstand. That's very, very, very important. Or you may find that someone may say something and then you may get it wrongly and it will bring now more rift instead of solving the issue. So listening and trying to understand it, try to repeat what they've said so that you can get exactly what they're trying to mean and not misinterpret it. That's something important.
And part of listening also is honoring your spouse's opinion. Because when I communicate, I have an opinion about something. And it might not necessarily be the way you think or feel about the same thing I'm communicating. But to honor and say, okay, I hear you. I hear you. That is your perspective. That is your point of view. That is your opinion. It could be a wrong opinion. It could be a wrong point of view. But the fact that you're allowing me, by listening, to verbalize and to be able to express what I'm feeling and not coming at me with judgment or defense, just listening presently, that would help to deal with this issue of communication. The other thing that is important is timing. Timing. When do you communicate? Give an example. Let's say I can come home and usually, by the way, Joanne has been able to learn the cues of whether I'm in a good mood or not. So sometimes I can come home stressed, something has stressed me. And in the early days of our marriage, she would want me to tell her there and then what is going on. And you know, like she said, sometimes you blame yourself. Is it me? have I done something to offend him? Have I, you know? So what I have learned to do is to communicate to Joan and say, you know what, I'm not, just give me some time. I need to kind of, I need to arrive. I'm still up there. I need to arrive. So having a sense of timing, and you're like, okay, this might not be the right time to bring this up, but it doesn't mean that you don't bring it up anyway. But if, for example, if emotions are flared and there's anger and whatever, there are certain things that are not good to say. If there's something that you need to correct your spouse about or rebuke your spouse about, you need to know, when do I bring this? Is this clear? The issue of timing is very, very important, because when you bring a piece of information, it could be the right information, it could be an information geared towards making the other person better, but you bring it at the wrong time, it's going to backfire. And when it backfires, you know, it just causes more damage. So we need to work on our timing, because we all know our rhythms as spouses. I know what takes her off. I know when she's not in a good mood. For example, yesterday evening, something happened, and it was something to do with Joan's business. And when this thing happened, you know, just Joan lost some money that she did not plan and anticipate to lose. And I just noticed her, you know, mood change. And I tried to come and comfort her and all that. But, you know, she didn't want comfort at that moment. At the moment, she just wanted to be left alone for her to process what had happened so that she can be able. So I was able to study the timing and just give her some space. And then later on, we were able to talk about it in the night. Yeah.
Yeah. And then as soon as you realize that you've done something wrong, try to understand the other person and apologize. It's very, very, very important that you recognize the moment. If you've done some or said something that you did not mean, but it came out. It came out and it was put there. What do? You cannot take it back. It's already out. So what do? Learn to apologize. I'm sorry is such a hard word. It's a hard word. But it's a hard statement, but it's a very, very important statement that can solve a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Personally, my husband says sorry. He's always the first to say sorry. So, and why I know it's hard, because it's hard for me to say sorry, but I've had to learn to say sorry and mean it. You know, they're saying sorry and they're like, okay, sorry. That is now the worst. It shows you did not mean it at all. But then there is genuine apology. Saying sorry is something that really helps. It communicates a lot. And imagine yourself, like on our flyer, how we had him have the spoon and I had the remote. Imagine him in that moment. Imagine your spouse, or imagine her in that moment whereby you've said this thing. Think about it. If you switched roles, how would the other person, how would you feel if you were that person in that position? How would you take it in if you were in that position? So let's learn to think of the other person to help us understand them and help us deal with the issue at the moment. Yeah.
Amen. Wow. Amazing. So our prayer for you is that as you walk this journey, tough as it is, our marriage has not been easy. It's not been smooth sailing. We are learning every single day.
Yeah.
As we pursue our relationship with Christ and as we are daily being conformed to Him, one of the ways that we've been challenged in our walk with Christ is really the way we treat each other, the way we serve one another. And that is such a signifier of our relationship with Christ. As a husband, I've been commanded by Christ to love Joan as He loved the church. And He gave Himself up for her, meaning His bride, the church. And I should be willing to do the things that Christ did for me, for Joan. My inability to even put my life on the line for Joan really questions my love for her. And for her, she's commanded by the Lord to submit unto me as unto the Lord. And submission is not the way it has been played out to be. It's not subjugation, it's not subordination. It is just saying, you know what, I choose to lay my will before you so that you can lead me. But it's I play my part, she plays her part, and when she submits fully, guess what? I also submit to her, because it's a two-way relationship. So really, our hope for coming into your homes, on your gadgets, is to share the things that we are learning. Today we are learning a few things on communication, and we are hoping that your communication can become better, so that you can build a Christ-honoring marriage for the sake of your testimony, for the sake of the children that you are raising, and for your own sake, your own friendship, because till death do us to us part.
So this is a journey. This is a journey, and you don't want the journey to end. But how do you go through the journey? Let it be a sweet journey for all of us, and let it be a memorable journey, not just to you as a couple, but even the offsprings that you have.
Amen.
God bless you, and hope you've caught something, and we pray that it comes out as a beautiful marriage for you. Blessings.
Amen. Amen. See you tomorrow with yet another conversation on wedlock
In lockdown.
Amen.